You're late. 5:02. Huh? Probably not. That's why I haven't started yet. There's supposed to be 30 people here today. Yeah, there was 2 that canceled. One had car problems. I forget what the other one was. Huh? Right. Surprised more people didn't bring dogs. I did. And last time I put this on, 3 people brought dogs. We almost had a dog fight in the middle of the class. How's everybody doing tonight? Hungry? I'm in the middle of a 3-day fast, so. I do. Huh? No? We'll wait a few more minutes before we kick off. Did they leave, Sean?
Yeah. Should be punished.
Why?
I guess they weren't. They didn't like that it wasn't scanned on.
That's all I gotta say. You should have read the description of the fucking class.
Right.
Well, I just saw somebody pull up. Once they come in, we'll get rolling.
Don't worry. I appreciate it. Yeah. No, it's a card and it's her information. So that's all I need.
That'll work.
Did I see somebody else out there, or am I just seeing things?
No, the notification I just got. Wait a minute, back up. So my flight's going down there. It's now 3:05. Oh, they're up $107. They're up that now. Our flight to Houston went up $107.
Nobody else out
All right. You can finish. Huh? What's in Houston? Oh. Well, I mean, you got to discuss it.
No,
We can all join in.
I just got a notification that the lights went up $107. And he was like, I'm like, no, they're bought. It's okay. We're locked in.
Got ahead of the curve. All right. So welcome. Who's been here before? Yeah. Who hasn't been here before? All the other people? So my name's Tommy. I'm the owner of Modern Canine. Tonight we're gonna cover just some basic dog training stuff, dog training principles, things that from an academic standpoint will help you with your relationship with your dog. Obviously, we're not gonna be doing any active training. No one has dogs. This is more for your guys' knowledge and know-how and taking that information and applying it to your dogs. So let's go around the room and introduce ourselves and tell us a little about what dogs you have, what you want to get out of this, what your goals are for your dog, things like that. We'll start with you guys.
Paul and Brian.
Always gotta be first.
Go ahead.
We're the parents, proud parents and bear. And we love it.
He's an 8-month-old, 95-pound rock.
And we still got some issues, so we're dealing with it.
And you guys are in group. Yep.
Yeah, we'll be here tomorrow.
So how's that going?
It's going good.
He does real good in the group.
Yeah.
But we need to.
So it's not a him thing, it's a you thing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
He does great here, but when we get him home, he gets in moods. Like our backyard, he doesn't want us going in.
That's his.
He'll start jumping and biting your ankle.
I mean, I'll come over.
So I guess I wasn't cut grass all year.
Awesome.
We're Greg and Terry. We have a 1.5-year-old golden doodle, Maggie, that went through group training from, she was about 4 months old when we started. And she went through the whole thing and she's done great. She's a great dog. She has a little bit of listening problems, more with him than me. And we're just, I don't scream at her.
Mom's a disciplinarian.
Yeah, and that's how it was when we had children at home. So, but I just want to stay on top of always learning and making sure she's the best house dog we can have.
For sure. And she's awesome.
When people come over, that's when she loses it because we don't have very much company, and she thinks they're all there for her.
Right. And she's so sweet.
She is very sweet.
So, awesome.
My name's Tim. I have a 6-month-old chocolate lab. Pretty smart. Learns pretty quick. I just want to get him in working with the heel, I just want to get him refined.
Yeah.
Off lead.
You gonna do any hunt stuff with them or just a pet dog?
Well, my buddy, the a deer hunt in Hawk Point. He's been training hunting dogs for 18 years. He's retired. That's why he can't have, he's gone 6-7 months out of the year, so I gotta do it on my own.
Yeah.
So I'm just here to get him refined.
Awesome. Cool.
Carrie and Zane and Laura. Yeah, we got 2 dogs, rescues, both of them. The oldest one is kind of a lab retriever mix, and the other one is a terrier mix. They're both about 50 pounders. And yeah, they go nuts when they see other animals.
In a bad way, good way?
Well, it's not good. The oldest one, she's not a good dog to have to meet strangers or anybody. The other one's friendly, a little bit too friendly probably.
Yeah.
And of course, our problem is when we ride in the car to take them to the park or something like that, we're walking around. Every time she sees an individual or an animal, anything, she starts whining and acting out, in the car. And it's just really gets on your last nerve. So anything that would help with that.
Okay. Awesome.
I got a lab rotten mix.
Okay.
We like her.
Well, that's a plus.
It took her a while.
I mean, either the lady's got to go or the dog's got to go if they don't make.
He was teased with my ex and her grandson.
Uh-huh.
And he got to fight.
Okay.
I'm Ron, my dog's Big Buster. Jack Russell, a little miniature picture. I think he's 9 or 10 months. I think he's just turned 10 months. And I'm just trying to get look better for myself. So I bring him to school here. He learns because we don't have many distractions on the phone.
You don't have any distractions in the country?
Well, there's a little bit here and there, but it's real quiet compared to, in town somewhere, So I bring him in the rural peak files. I brought him in here rural peak today.
And group's great for him. He does great in group.
Yeah, they're just getting away from the backyard. Sometimes that's what I'm in trouble with. Selective area when it gets out there in the backyard. I still have trouble with that.
Okay.
We're good friends, but I have 7 here.
Oh, okay. You guys aren't together.
No,
Got it. My bad. I didn't mean to assume.
that's okay.
Everybody else over here sitting next to theirs all together. I'm sorry.
A little bit late, she'll be here in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Should be.
Anyway, I have 7. I want to retire and open up a equine psychotherapy and enrichment center, which includes dogs and rescue, pretty much. And I've got a lot of things I want to do with the healing properties of animals.
Awesome. That gets really complicated and really muddy really quick. Just be aware. So, Peyton,
I'm Peyton. I actually don't have any dogs, but I work
what are you talking about? You got 50 of them just down the road.
with the animal rescue out in Warrenton, and I handle a lot of their dogs, so I just like to know everything I can about them and how to make them better and find better homes.
My name's Lola. I have several dogs. I have a wiener dog and one that's stubborn that needs some.
Typical wiener dog.
Yeah, and I also foster and volunteer with No Time to Spare, so I need to learn a lot.
Tell Carol to send you the links to the videos.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos, but it's good to be refreshed and keep up.
My name is Lisa, and I'm probably more the one that needs the training. He sees what I do, so I just need more information, and I still gotta do better with the big dogs. I'm here to keep getting that pushed into my head so I can keep hearing it. So I have been doing better.
Is that true, Peyton?
And,
Is she doing better?
I'm excited. So I'm doing better.
You, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Mary. This is my boyfriend Alan. We have 4 dogs. Two of them are newly rescued Chihuahuas. They're,
Chihuahuas?
yeah. They're gonna need, some in. We're having little victories, but yeah.
Cool.
They don't like me.
Oh, they hate him.
I can't even walk by the pen without them barking. I can't even walk in the house.
They like him when he feeds them.
Yeah. Yeah, when I feed them, they don't say nothing at all.
I mean, that's the fastest way to a dog's heart.
Yeah. He's doing all the feeding and the treats right now. That's how.
Good. Best way to start. So,
He just got them also, so.
Yeah, like I'm giving them time, but
They were my foster dogs.
they're yeah, these ladies had them trapped in jail. I had to get them out.
oh man. Come on in. Grab a seat and then introduce yourself, not to put you on the spot.
I'm Nancy Allen.
All right, so like I said, my name's Tommy. I've been professionally training dogs for about 10 years, about a decade. Time goes by when you're having fun. We opened Modern Canine Solutions here 3 years ago, almost to the day, and it has been a whirlwind. So we average about 600 to 800 dogs a year that we're training. Hi. Just making a ruckus. So we do a lot of behavioral cases. We do a lot of happy-go-lucky dogs. We do a ton of outreach with our rescue partners. Pretty much anything besides cattle herding, we do it. So I got into dogs. When I got out of the Marine Corps in 2012, I got a service dog. And the organization that I got him from rescued him, which cool, no problem. I met the dog. They're like, "Yep, this is gonna be your dog. We're gonna train him all up for you. This is what it costs." So we paid out of pocket for it. And I got a call 2 weeks later. And they're like, "Hey, your dog's done training." I'm like, again, wasn't a dog trainer. Freshly out of the Marine Corps, knew nothing about dogs. I was like, that was pretty darn quick for a fully trained service dog, but okay. So I drive out, go pick up the dog. I do an hour-long lesson, and the dog was okay, but didn't know sit, didn't know down, didn't know any of his basic commands. And I was like, are we sure that this is what we're supposed to be doing? Like, shouldn't he be here a little bit longer? I don't feel like he's actually a service dog. And the guy's like, no, you're good. We're gonna do some follow-up training, And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I guess that's how this goes. So I take him home, take him for our first walk, and he killed my neighbor's dog. And I was like, now what? Like, fuck. So call the guy up. I'm like, hey, dude, like, you told me he was a trained service dog. I just took him for a walk. I have a baby on the way. Like, this isn't helping my PTSD. This isn't helping my anxiety. This isn't doing anything for me. Now I probably have a lawsuit because my dog just killed my neighbor's dog. Now what? And so dealt with all that kind of stuff, figured it all out. My neighbors were actually super, super lenient about it and very cool and whatever. But from that point on, I figured, okay, just like every other industry out there, it's service-based industry, there's fly-by-nights, right? There's just people out there trying to make a dime off of you, trying to lure you in and do whatever to try to get a paycheck. So I pledged to myself that I would never let anybody go through that again, because that was horrible. Like, besides like thinking that I was gonna be sued, owed a bunch of money, because at the time, I was living off my VA disability. I'm 100% disabled to the VA. Like, that was horrible. Plus I had a kid on the way, and now I have a dog that likes to kill dogs, and it's just, not helping at all. So ended up finding a police canine handler who, and this, again, before I was even a dog trainer, this was way before I owned a firearms training and consulting business, who basically helped me a little bit along the way, and then with tons and tons of research and everything like that, I ended up rehabbing the dog, and he ended up being fantastic. And he's actually back there in the little box and have his ashes back there on the mantle. So he ended up living until he was 14 years old. Best dog in the world. All that to say, if you're going through something, I've probably been through it with a dog. Whether it's aggression, whether it's fear, whether it's some other kind of behavioral thing, or having just a great dog. My current dog is just a fantastic dog. So flash forward a couple years, 2015, I moved back to Missouri, and I sold my firearms company, had no idea what I was gonna do with myself. Went through another really bad transition and decided that it was time to do something. And a buddy of mine came over to my house and goes, dude, you know, your PTSD is messing with you, you know, your anxiety is messing with you, you're drinking all the time, like you're basically sitting here just waiting to die, you need to go do something, right? So I was like, well, what am I gonna do? I didn't even have a phone at the time. I had a stupid like little flip phone. So like I didn't even have a smartphone. And he was like, well, you were doing service dogs in the past, which I wasn't doing them. I wasn't training them, but I had a nonprofit that we were doing service dogs through. And he was like, why don't you get into dogs? Because you were really good at it. You know what you're talking about. You have your service dog who's a perfect, you know, representation of what's possible for people. Was your OCD messing you up? And, you know, I was like, well, you know, what are you talking about? Like, how am I going to go learn how to be a dog trainer? Like, am I supposed to go to like apprentice underneath somebody or whatever? He's like, I don't know. There's trade schools for everything. Let's look it up. So he pulls out his smartphone, his Apple, and he's all do. And sure enough, he found a dog training academy like within an hour of me. And I spent 1.5 years there using my GI Bill, learning everything about dog training. And that was 2016. So, fell in love with it, got rid of all my gun company stuff, and I ended up starting up a bunch of different franchises for other dog trainers, not starting them, but basically running them. And my wife came to me a couple years ago and she goes, you know, you're making all these other people all this money, starting these businesses for them, running their businesses for them. Everybody's coming to you because of what you do. Why don't you just do your own thing instead of making everybody else rich? And I was like, I don't know. Never thought about it. So light bulb goes off, right? So then we ended up moving back here. We were on a dog contract in Virginia for a year. We moved back here 3 years ago, about 4 years ago. And we decided to start outreaching out here. This was available. And if anybody's from this area, this has been vacant for 15 years, 20 years, right? So now we're here. We've been here for 3 years. We run about 600 to 800 dogs a year. Everything from group lessons, private lessons, full-blown board and trains, lifetime support, all kinds of stuff. So all that to say, just a little bit of backstory about me, just so you guys know who I am. Probably shared a little too much, but hey, that's what we're here for, right? So the reason why we're all probably here, besides the specific issues you guys cited, is because we want to communicate better with our dogs, right? Most of our problems with our dogs comes from lack of communication. Or just you don't know what you don't know, right? Can dogs understand English? Not unless we teach them, right? So most of dogs' communication is between body language and physical contact. That's how 90% of their communication happens. The barking, like what you hear, that's not them communicating back and forth. That's just them alerting and letting them know, hey, we're here, there's something going on, right? Pay attention. But how they communicate with each other, 90% of it is body language and touch. So if you're communicating to your dog verbally and your dog doesn't truly understand what it means because he doesn't understand the human language, you're basically doing a bunch of this and the dog's not gonna understand. Does that make sense? Can you guys all hear me? Okay. So in dog training, we have 3 dog training principles. So we have timing, which is your dog's concept of cause and effect. So this behavior equals this, right? The window for understanding or connecting the dots is 1.2 seconds. So if I ask my dog to sit and my dog doesn't sit and I don't do anything within 1.2 seconds, 2 seconds, my dog's not gonna connect the dots to the consequence of what happened, whether positive or negative. Does that make sense? Is everybody tracking on that? So we have like that much time for our dog to understand, right? Why is that important? Because if my dog can't connect the dots to the behavior of what's going on to my response, or even an environmental response, they're not gonna learn, right? Make sense? So, because our dog's timing window is so short, we have to have a way to bridge to the consequence, whether positive or negative. Has everybody heard of a clicker? Right? If you have multiple dogs, you probably have one of these rolling around in a drawer somewhere that you don't use because they're worthless because you don't know how to use them. So a clicker is what we call a marker. Am I right? So all a marker is an auditorable sound that we pair with either something positive or negative, right? So most of the time a clicker is positive. I ask my dog to sit, their butt touches the ground, I click, I reward the dog. And then eventually the clicker becomes the cue to the dog that did something right. Who wants to carry one of these around? You want to carry one? No, I mean like during the day, like nobody wants to carry one. You already got keys and treats and a leash and your dog and everything else, right? So nobody wants to carry one of those. So we have to be able to have a marker that we can carry with us every day that our dog understands. What is something that you carry with you every day that your dog can understand? That's auditorable. Your voice, 100%, right? So here we use good and no. So good is positive, no is negative. So if I ask my dog to sit and his butt touches the ground, what should I do? Good, right? Now tone is huge. If I'm good, and I get a Mickey Mouse voice and I'm all happy-go-lucky, what's my dog gonna do? Get all excited, right? So in conversational tone is how you should be communicating to your dog. Does that make sense? Now, if you release your dog or give a terminal marker, which we'll get into that later, and I want my dog to get excited, then raise the tone of your voice. Why do dogs listen more often to men than they do women? 100%. 100%, right? If you ever look at your dog and go, no, what's your dog do? Right? It's the mom and dad voice, right? Women have a higher pitched voice, guys have a deeper voice. So they automatically, more often than not, I won't say it's 100% across the board, but more often than not, they're gonna listen to the man better. Not to be sexist, I promise. So, if something happens, I ask my dog to do something, they don't do it or they do it, within 1.2 seconds, a marker should be coming out of my mouth. Now, like I said, it's a bridge, right? The bridge to the motivation. So just like we have positive and negative, we have positive motivation, negative motivation. Motivation is how we influence our dog's decision making. Give me examples of positive motivation. Treats. What else? No. It's not physical. Petting, yes. So verbal praise is a marker, right? Good girl, good boy, yeah. Now your dog will probably get excited about it, but it can also burn out, right? If you're not backing that up with something physical, because dogs are physical creatures, eventually that good girl, good boy, yeah, good job. They're gonna look at you and go, well, you're not paying me, so why the hell am I doing this? Right? Who's got a job? If you didn't get paid this week, would you go back next week? No. So why aren't we paying our dogs? And every dog's paycheck's gonna be different, right? So, positive can be, remember, it has to be physical. So treats, petting, what else? Toys. So if those are examples of positive, what are examples of negative? This is where I get everybody. Ignoring them. So that could be a negative. It's not a strong negative, but it could potentially be a negative motivator, depending upon the dog. A stronger one would be withholding the reward, right? If I have a treat and I have a food-motivated dog and I go sit and the dog's like, and he's not doing it, and I withhold that reward until they sit, that's a negative, right? Who puts a leash on their dog? Can your leash be a negative? Yeah, right? So your leash. What about thumping your dog in the ear? Is that a negative? It's not approved. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it, right? Because then you can tarnish your relationship with your dog, but that's a negative, right? If your dog's running away from you, you don't have a leash on him and you tackle him, is that a negative? Right? So, has to be something physical. The definition of a negative motivator is something the dog may or may not like, but isn't afraid of. So it can be a leash, e-collar, pinch collar, withholding rewards, taking something away from your dog. If your dog has a toy and you're taking it away from him, that can be a negative, right? That's a powerful negative. So, order of effect would be, I ask my dog to do something, within 1.2 seconds, I have to give the marker that bridges us to the motivation. Does that make sense? Awesome. And then we have consistency. Consistency is probably the hardest for everybody because most people aren't consistent in their own lives. And especially when you have couples and you have multiple people all interacting with the same animal, everybody's got different tone of voices, my pressure is different than your pressure, all that kind of stuff, right? So consistency to dogs is being black and white. If I give gray area, I cause conflict. And it doesn't give clarity to my dog. So if I say sit and my dog lays down, is that black and white? No. The dog didn't do what I asked him to do. Now here's where that comes in too, is that if the dog truly knows what I'm asking of them. Has the dog truly learned that sit means put your butt on the ground? Does that make sense? So, consistency is being black and white. Does that all make sense? Because that right there is the principles of dog training. If we can't master this, you're never going to achieve like a lot with your dog. You might just get lucky and have a great dog that just kind of just goes with the flow and ends up learning you and how things go. But more often than not, most people don't have just great natural dogs. And if they do, it takes years of stress and crap and the dog maturing and usually getting 3 to 4 years old before they figure out how to live with you in your life and your lifestyle, right? Who wants to wait 3 to 4 years for their dog to catch on? Well, I understand your guys' problem because 3 to 4 years of bears a lot. So, yes, ma'am.
How much time does your marker buy you before you have to pay for the motivation?
I've gone, so you've been to the Arch? St. Louis Arch? So you know the hill behind the Arch? So I've had my dog sit all the way up there and I've walked all the way down the stairs to the riverfront, marked there, and then walked all the way back.
Okay, so you have to mark within 1.2 seconds, but then you've got...
A lot. Yep. As long as your dog is still focused. Because if your dog loses concentration or focus or whatever, then now we're on a whole nother wavelength of what's going on. So I tell people to try to do it as quickly as possible, right? That's also going to depend on your dog, because some dogs have a mind of a goldfish. And then you have more dogs that, you know, they have been taught over time and their endurance for that kind of stuff has increased, right? So rule of thumb, I would say most pet dogs, you've got 5 to 30 seconds. When you start getting into sports stuff and the higher level type of obedience and things like that, with those types of dogs, it could be almost infinite depending upon the dog. So, because they understand the chain of effects. So, but there's no like A to Z or, you know, definitive where the dog fades out or anything like that.
Should there be a pause between the marker and the payment?
100%. So unlike us, we do everything together, right? We speak together, we use our hands together, we move together, we do everything at one time. If there's an action that's going on or something that we're trying to do, we do everything together at one motion. Dogs don't look at the world that way. So if you're trying to teach the dog, there needs to be deliberate breaks in between each step. So you have your command, you have your marker, you have your motivation, you have your reward or your correction or whatever. Everything needs to be separated by a half a second to a second for the dog to truly understand. So, does that make sense? Anything else? Did I answer your questions?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Any questions over timing, motivation, consistency markers? Does that make sense? You sure? Okay. I need a paper towel. All right, so in dog training, we have 3 types of pressure. We have leash pressure, physical pressure, and e-collar pressure. Whoops. So we have leash, physical, e-collar. So when I say pressure, who's ridden a horse? Ridden a horse, right? So when you ride a horse and you apply rein pressure, what does the horse do? It turns, right? And then what happens when you release the rein pressure? Straightens back out, right? So horses learn from the pressure. Does that make sense? Anybody a horse trainer? You? Is that how they learn, right? Okay, just want to make sure. So yeah, so leg pressure, heel pressure, whatever, but they learn from the pressure, right? For most people that don't understand horse training, the reins are more easily understandable, right? So horses learn from the pressure. Once the pressure releases, that means the exercise is over and they can kind of straighten back out and do whatever they were doing before, right? So dogs learn from the release of pressure. So everything that we do here, we teach through the leash, through pressure. Because it's tactile, it's physical, and the dog has a way of actually feeling what the expectation is. Because remember, they don't understand verbal until we teach them what the thing is. And if I'm sitting here going, sit, 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 they're not gonna learn. Because there could be so many different things that happen in that time frame of hearing sit that they can associate with that word. Does that make sense? So if I want to teach my dog how to sit, I can apply upward pressure on the leash. My dog's butt touches the ground. I mark good, and I release the pressure. So the dog's action of doing what I want them to do turns the pressure off. Does that make sense?
Is that a slip lead? It's not like a regular?
Doesn't matter. Flat collar, slip lead. It doesn't work very well in a harness because you're manipulating the body, not the head, but it does work. So the goal is pressure on, pressure off. The pressure tells the dog to do something. The release of the pressure tells the dog they did something correct. And then the marker double reinforces it, and then your motivation helps with that as well. So the best way to think of leash pressure is it's a steering wheel. It's a direct line of communication between you and your dog. So if I want my dog to sit, leash pressure up. If I want my dog to down, leash pressure down. And what you don't want to do is you're not forcing it. Like I'm not taking the leash and I'm yanking the dog up into a sit, right? I'm giving tension and directional help so the dog can connect the dots. Does that make sense? So then we have physical pressure. Who has an awkward friend that gets in your bubble and you have to back up when they're talking to you? Sean. Right? So you're in a conversation and your buddy's like coming up to you and you're like, dude, like, man, back up, right? Awkward. That's physical pressure. We can do the same thing with our dog. Now, don't do it with somebody else's dog because it's a good way to chase the dog off or get bit, right? But if I tell my dog to sit on this and I back away and I have a Velcro dog and my dog wants to be with me and the dog starts coming towards me, I can say no and start walking back towards my dog, and most likely he's gonna fix himself because I'm gonna push him back with my physical presence, right? That's also why when you meet a new dog and you're over the top of him like this, and you're like, oh, and you get bit in the face, it's because it's too much pressure. right? You're hovering over them. That's very intimidating for a dog, right? Eye contact can also be physical pressure. That's how dogs initiate dog fights. They freeze up, they stare, and the other dog stares back, and then they either posture and they go after each other, or they do a play bow and they start playing, right? But usually your dog fights start from a stare. So eye contact. So if you're meeting a new dog, don't stare him down as you're approaching. Is that how you got bit? So, because now you're adding not only eye contact, but you're also adding physical pressure by moving towards the dog. And if the dog's backed into a corner or he has nowhere else to go, there's only 3 options: fight, flight, freeze, right? So physical pressure is very powerful. You have to be careful with it, because if you do it to the wrong dog, that dog's gonna hightail it out. If you do it to the wrong dog, you could also get bit. More often than not, though, with your personal dogs, if you apply physical pressure, it's not gonna be a problem, right? Because it's your dog. Make sense? And then we have e-collar pressure. Everybody know what an e-collar is? Electric collar? You don't know what an e-collar is? So it's just a remote collar. So if you've ever gone to the chiropractor and they put the TENS unit on you, that's all this is. We just teach the dog the same way we teach a leash pressure with this. So now we have off-leash reliability ways to communicate with the dog without having to be tethered to the dog. And the reason why it's a separate pressure, excuse me, is because it's invisible and it feels different, right? So e-collar is not a requirement in dog training, obviously, because we didn't have e-collars 100 years ago, right? And we had fantastic dogs 100 years ago. But with modern day science, it's a great tool because it can speed up communication between you and the dog, especially if it's a good e-collar. Why do you look confused? So e-collar pressure is the third pressure. One of the big things I like to point out to people is pressure when it comes to your dog. It doesn't matter if it's leash pressure, it doesn't matter if it's physical pressure, it doesn't matter if it's e-collar pressure. If your dog understands pressure on, pressure off, they all work because they're all taught the same way, because it all comes from the leash. When we introduce e-collar, we use the leash.
So would it be the same amount of pressure with that thing as it would be used with the leash?
So I can increase the pressure with both of those incrementally, or I can blast the dog with either one. So it depends on the user. It also depends on what the dog considers, right? Because I could have Baron here on an e-collar and he might be at a 75, and then I take her little, who had the wiener dog? You had the wiener dog. Put the wiener dog on there, and if I hit him on a 75, he wouldn't be a wiener dog no more. Right? So it also depends on the dog. So, but the reason why, one of the big reasons I like the e-collar is, one, it's not personal, right? A leash and collar is very personal. The dog sees me give him a correction or apply that pressure. He doesn't understand radio waves. And if I'm not taking this remote and going, bad Lisa, right? He's not gonna know that it's coming from me. So in his mind, if my timing and my motivation's correct, it's his behavior that's causing the correction versus me. So I'm not tarnishing my relationship. But if you're not taught that right, you can ruin your dog very, very quickly. Because it's like God coming down and blasting your dog, and your dog's like, oh my God, what just happened, right? So your timing has to be on point. The understanding of how to use it has to be on point. So, but it's a powerful tool. For fearful dogs, there's not a better tool out there.
It has to be taught.
100%.
They have
No
to
different than a
know their
leash.
markers. Like, you can't just go straight to the e-collar and have them think that they know what that means.
No, that's why we teach everything with the leash first, right? So if my dog understands leash pressure and knows how to release leash pressure, then I can introduce that. Now it goes a lot faster if he understands leash pressure and the verbal commands and my verbal markers. It goes a lot quicker. But I mean, I can go, for some dogs, you can just go right to the e-collar and they'll understand. Because if your timing and everything's right and the dog is happy-go-lucky enough, you're not gonna have any issues. Still don't recommend doing it that way because I always wanna have a default, which is my leash. So I always start, no matter where the dog's at, I start with the leash. So, and the e-collar is not for everybody. It's not. You have to have hand-eye coordination. You have to think about what you're doing, pushing a button. For some people, it's more ingrained to have that leash and give a pop. And that's okay. I have a lot of older clients that we don't even try to do e-collars with because they're like 4 fingers and a thumb and they're just like, I don't know, right? They can't figure it out. So for them, it's easier just to put them on a leash and a prong collar sometimes with a strong dog. So, but it is a very powerful tool. Any questions over pressures? Does that make sense? Yes? Deer in headlights?
My dog doesn't respond to physical pressure the way, like I work with horses a lot. I mean, if I don't have a straight call front on my horse, I can touch their side or their hind quarter and move them around. But with the dog, you find the bitey end instead of the butt moving.
Because he's defensive about that part of his body. So you're talking about like you're trying to do a front, like a call to a heel, or not a heel, but a front command, right? He kicks out. So instead of trying to push him in the rear, back away from him.
Right, but I'm just saying, I expected that the dog was going to train the same way the horses do, and you cannot put direct pressure on
Not on every dog.
some dogs.
No. It's a great way to get bit, especially if you don't have a relationship. So, now there's other ways to go about direct pressure though. Just like a horse, I've seen, what do they call them? Are they flags? You get a horse that's terrified of it, right? So you just build up the horse's confidence with it. You build neutrality to it, and then eventually the horse doesn't care, but then they start to understand what it means. You can do the same thing with a dog. The big difference is you have a dog that's willing to come forward with you versus a horse that's willing to turn, kick, and run. So either way, it's dangerous. 1,200 pounds versus whatever. With 48 really sharp teeth coming at you. So, but I mean, again, that's, most of dog training is knowing what you can do with the dog, knowing the dog, reading the dog, and then building the confidence in the relationship with the dog. You can't do anything without trust. Same thing with horses. You have to have trust. And if that means that I have to build up tolerance for something, then I need to step back a few steps, build that up first, if that is something I need to do. It also depends on what the end goal with the dog is. If you don't need a straight front, then that might be something I might forego in training because I don't need it. If it's competition, then I'm gonna have to work on that. I'm gonna have to back down it and maybe teach it a different way. Maybe use a shaping box or a place command or something like that to get the dog to come straight, or use gates or something so the dog gets channeled in there and he stays straight. And after enough repetitions, it becomes the default versus actually having to use like a whip or a crop or something, or a healing stick to get the dog to come center. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'd rather work on being able to use a touch to direct without the dog redirecting.
100%. Especially if you're gonna go like AKC and they're gonna do like the open where they have to do a stand for examination and they have to touch the dog. And they come up and they go, oh, and they get bit. So, but yeah, so at that point you'd have to work through that to make sure that the dog can handle it. But then you also have to generalize it enough that it's not just you in that one specific situation. So generalization for dogs is typically 5 or more times, 5 more places, and 5 more different opportunities. So like, I call it basketball syndrome. You can't play basketball on a soccer field. It's really bad and the ball doesn't bounce right? So if I'm gonna teach like a place command, for instance, I'm gonna teach this from at least 5 different directions. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna go out into 5 different environments. I'm gonna take this and go to 5 different things so that the dog understands it in a generalization versus just this aquarium setting where this is all it is. That's why a lot of people, their dogs are great in the house, but as soon as you go out the front door, it's a shit show because the dog only understands it in the home because we haven't generalized it enough for the dog to understand. So yeah, once you get it done in that one situation, then start bridging it out. And I always, whenever you're starting to generalize things, you always have to go back steps to make it easier for the dog, but it goes faster every time it becomes more generalized. So, all right. Any questions over pressures?
I'm trying to understand with leash training, you have a leash on all the time?
Not necessarily. But if you don't have a leash, how did you reinforce?
We did for the first year. She had a leash on all the time.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things, I don't know why leashes in the house are taboo, but if you had a leash and crate trained a dog, and you kept a leash on your dog for the first even 6 months to 8 months of the dog's life with everything you do, 90% of your problems would never happen because the dog wouldn't have the opportunity. Dogs are creatures of success. The more times they're successful at something, the more it becomes ingrained and the more it's going to happen. Right? So what's the number one problem people have with dogs? You might know.
Chewing.
Nope.
Leash walking.
Nope. Jumping. Number one problem. Guess who caused that? Why? Because we had a cute little freaking puppy, and we're like, oh, you're so cute! And they're jumping on your shin, and then they get 40 pounds, and they're still cute, and the next thing you know, they're 80 pounds, and they're knocking you over. But we started it when they were here, right? And when they're 8 weeks old, and this is all they're getting over and 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 over again for 6 months, that's a lot of success. And then we wonder when they're 8 months old and they're 40, 60, 80 pounds, and you're like, shit, you suck, dude, stop jumping on me. And we're like trying to get it to stop, and it's like, the dog's like, no, you love this. We've been doing this forever, man. We're besties, right? So whose problem is it? It's ours. We created it. So, creatures of success, right? Same thing, counter surfing. If my dog never got the opportunity because he was on a leash and he learned kitchen manners and being on a leash and not being on the counter, and that one time he tried, he got a little pop, and it never happened again, it's probably never gonna happen again, right?
The blue tape you told us to put down when we were training her, because of the way our house is set up, we put blue tape across where she wasn't allowed to cross to go to the kitchen, and we took it up after about 3 months, and she still will not cross
100%.
the area to go into the kitchen.
100%. Yeah, it's a boundary. Stay away! No, we can't build walls, remember? So, all right. All right, core 5. What does sit mean? Sit on the butt. Sit on the butt. What does sit down mean? So it really doesn't matter, right? So it just depends on what your saying is, right? Some people sit down flows better, and that's okay.
Doesn't that confuse them with down?
No, because they're sit. It also depends on what you reinforce, right? So when it comes to verbals, it depends on what you're reinforcing, positive or negative, and what your boundaries and expectations are. So for my dog, sit means to put your butt down and look, nice and pretty, right? So I try to keep things as stupid simple as possible, because the more you add in the mix, the more you forget and the more your dog gets mixed up and all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, sit means put your butt on the ground. What does down mean? Play dead? Is that what you said?
Lay down.
Oh, lay down, sorry. Yeah, so I want my dog's belly on the ground, front elbows touching the ground, right? Everybody knows what the downward dog position is in yoga, right? Where they're like this and their butt's up in the air. That's not a down, right? So I like those front elbows on the ground. Their belly should be touching the ground. For my dog, down is a sphinx position, like the Egyptian sphinx. Nice and perfect, pretty competition look. And then when I say lay down, that's his relaxed down command where he kicks his hips out and he can relax. He doesn't have to be all perfect, proper, and all that kind of stuff. As long as your expectations have been explained to the dog and taught, you can separate it, right? The dog, they're smart enough and they have enough understanding that you can give multiple commands for one thing, because to them it's just a sound to what the expectation is. To us, if I say sit and sit down, it all means the same, right? Unless I taught you, sit means to sit in a chair and sit down means to sit on the ground. Now we have two different expectations with two different words. Does that make sense? Heel means walk with me. My dog should be at my heel, right? So if I say heel and I start walking, my dog should be somewhere in this general area. Now again, expectations. When I tell my dog to heel, it's competition. He stares at me, right? I don't do that in general walking because he'll run into something. It's not a good general day command. For his pet heel command is walk, right? Place. So place cots, it could be a chair, it could be a, whatever that thing's called. You know, the goal behind place is the dog gets on top of it and it becomes a management command. He's only allowed to get up on there. He's not allowed to move around, jump off, bark, anything crazy. It's management. So when I'm sitting down watching TV and I don't want my dog in my lap, or bear, you know, doing whatever his bear does, you can tell him to place, he lays down and relaxes, and it becomes, hey, that's your space, this is my space. Or if I have people come over, who has a dog that likes to rush the door? 7 dogs, I'm sure probably want to bar the door, right? So if I have a place command, I can say place, I can go answer my door, my dogs are managed, they come in, they hold that, they get to see how this person moves, hear how they talk. I can wait till the dogs calm down, then release them, and they're in a better state of mind than this amped, you know, hyper aroused, crazy, I want to jump on everybody mindset, right? So it's a management command. It's a crate without walls. Super awesome command. Very powerful command. Huh? So you got to practice it before you're in the situation.
We do a lot. She's still, she looks at us and like, after a few minutes it's gone.
So your negative has to be more powerful than her desire to get off or her motivation to get off. It's no different than her chasing squirrels.
She does that great.
That's an example, right? So if I'm walking my dog and my dog's going after squirrels, that dog's motivation to chase a squirrel is higher than his desire to want to stay with me, which means I either have to add more negative to stop that behavior, or I have to be more interesting and more motivated to him to stay with me. And more often than not, the squirrel is way more motivating than food, treats, toys, anything like that, right? So, but you also got to start at baby steps, right? So if I'm going to teach my dog place and I want somebody to be able to walk in the door, first I got to be able to keep the dog in a place through a knock. So I might put my dog on place, sit on the floor, knock, knock, knock on the ground, feed, feed, knock, knock, feed, knock, knock, feed. Then I'm going to move away. Knock, knock, treat, knock, knock, treat. And then I'm going to go to the door, knock, knock, treat, knock, knock, treat. And then maybe I'll stick your husband outside and he'll knock on the door and you're sitting there managing it. And then he comes in and he can be all goofy, right? He opens the door, hey! And the dog goes, oh, hey! And she jumps off. You give her a correction, you put her back. He jumps up again, yay! And she goes, oh shit, yeah, we're playing. Oh, no. And after some repetition, success, right? She has to have a series of successes of holding it. So we have to start small and build up the distractions. We can't just put her there, have a whole horde of kids come run in the door and expect her to hold, right? So little wins add up to big wins. And then come, recall. For me, when I say come, it means for the dog to come and sit at me within arm's reach. Because I don't want to have to go chase the dog and put clips on them or anything like that, right? I want the dog to come within arm's reach and sit. I think it looks better. I think it looks more professional. It finishes the recall versus if I just say come, I go, Soof! All right, bye. All right? So if I say come, my dog should come to me and sit. My dog, if I say come, he runs to me, he comes in the heel. But that's just what I've taught my dog. So all of these we teach with pressure on, pressure off with a leash before we teach anything else. So Where's my dog? Yep, best dog in the world. He don't poop, he don't do nothing, he don't bark. I mean, he costs me money, and he keeps my daughter entertained for hours. Yeah, but I don't have to clean up after this one. All right. So, if I'm going to teach a sit command, I don't give any commands until the dog has the muscle memory of the behavior. Right? Anybody done martial arts? No? Weirdos. No. I'm kidding. So, sports, martial arts, anything like that, like, you have to build the repetition and the muscle memory of what you're doing before it becomes a default, right? So I don't like, especially because I'm dealing with an animal that doesn't truly understand verbal commands, I like building the muscle memory of the expectation before I introduce the command. And then I'll use classical conditioning to introduce the command so the dog understands it. Does everybody know what classical conditioning is? Pavlov's dog experiment? The bell, food? No? You just graduated from high school like last year. So, for a sit, leash pressure. It's directional help. I'm not lifting the dog up off the ground and hanging the dog, right? Now, some of your dogs might need that. No, I'm kidding. It's tension, right? I'm giving directional help. I can take my treat and I can help with luring the dog, right? And then once the dog's butt touches the ground, not gonna work. So once his butt touches the ground, I release the pressure. So now the dog goes, oh, now I know how to turn this off. All I gotta do is put my butt on the ground. So this means sit. So once I get the dog understanding, and this might take 3-4 sessions, some repetitions before the dog understands, especially if you have like a bull breed that's gonna fight back against pressure or any of that kind of stuff, right? Tension, dog sits, good, release the pressure, reward. So there's a negative and then 2 positives, the treat and the release of the pressure. So if you have a super aggressive dog that you cannot touch and you wanna reward them, releasing the pressure is a positive. Does that make?
Marker word come with the leash?
Marker first, release second. But they can be close. And in reality, I mean, you could actually do them both at the same time. I try to separate them. It also depends on the moment. So, because if I have a dog that's real fast, I might do it at the same time just so I'm not having the dog break. I still get it accomplished. He hears the marker, gets the pressure released, but he's not like fighting or getting out of it. So, for a down, it's just simply leash pressure down. For those of you that have bad backs or bad hips like I do, you can use your foot as a fulcrum, right? Directional pressure down.
That's how you get them down. Lay down?
Yeah. Down. D-O-N-W-N. So, be careful with the foot thing though, especially if a dog, like maybe like your dog, he might not like that and he might try to take your foot. I don't know your dog, but if he's touchy, sensitive on the side.
It wouldn't be, the leash is fine.
Leash is fine. It's physical touch. So, and then recall, the dog's not coming to me. There's tension on the leash. As soon as he makes forward motion towards me, it's gonna loosen the leash, right? So the dog's creating loose tension on this one. And as long as he keeps coming back towards me, there's not gonna be any pressure. But as soon as he veers off, the pressure's gonna come back. And my dog's gonna die. So, and then for me, as long as the dog's coming towards me, if I wanna work on that nice sit front, I'm gonna back away till the dog's close enough. And then when he gets close enough, I'll stop, I'll lure the dog into the sit or give that leash pressure up and then reward the dog. That makes sense? Place. See, best dog in the world, man. I'll trade you. So a lot of people on the place command, they do this and they hold it right in the center of the place, and the dog gets stuck. They'll put 2 paws on it and they won't go forward, right? So you got to go through it all the way, and then once the dog steps all 4 paws on, that's when we release the pressure. But a lot of people, they get stuck right here, or the dog starts to come around and they play Ring Around the Rosie with the dog. You don't need to move. Just stay right here, right? I always start long ways because it's easier for the dog. Eventually, once I can get the dog going long ways, then I'll start introducing it short ways, angles, different directions, things like that. But the biggest thing is it has to go all the way through to the other side. And then once all 4 paws are on, we release the pressure. Good. Mark, reward. Boom, boom, boom. Any questions over that? Heel command. Who has problem walking their dogs? Perfect. So, when I teach heel, I don't expect the dog to do it from a stationary position first. Stationary is always hard for dogs. It's usually always easier to teach something in motion because the dog is less distracted. So, if this was a real dog, I would just start walking and let the dog get distracted. So if I started walking and the dog got distracted this way, tension gets put, he's gonna hit the end of that leash, it's gonna create a little bit of a pop. He's gonna look to me from the leash pressure and go, oh shit, he got away from me. Dog runs up, good, start rewarding. He's gonna get distracted again. He's gonna turn, I'm gonna go the opposite direction. So basically I'm gonna walk around like I'm drunk until the dog figures out that this is where he needs to be and he starts getting rewarded a bunch. And then with reward history of it being right here, the dog stays there. And then we end up playing a game of trying to sneak away from the dog where he might not be distracted. He might just be looking ahead of me and I'll get away from him and he'll hit the end of the leash. And then I end up playing this game of getaway and the dog doesn't want to be away from me because every time he does, he gets that little correction. So then he's playing this game of he keeps his eyes on me and he never lets me out of his sight. And that's how I get a dog that's just like boom the entire time we're walking. If you don't want this, give your dog slack. Let him have some freedom. Or if you want this, but you also want the dog to have some freedom to sniff and smell and be a dog, give him 2 commands. This is heel, this is walk with me. And the dog gets some more freedom. Does that make sense? All right, been running my mouth for about an hour. Any questions on timing, motivation, consistency?
I have a question.
No.
I have a hound dog.
Good luck.
That he will choke himself. I mean, he is just not.
They don't care.
Unless there's a prong collar or something, but a regular collar, he'll see another dog, and I mean,
Yeah.
he don't care. I don't want to collapse his
Trachea.
but he will pull and ignore.
Does he respect the prong collar?
Yeah.
So why don't you walk him with the prong collar?
Well, sometimes it's just not there. You know, when I take it for a ride and I didn't bring it, so.
So, you know what the 7 P's are? 7 P's? Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Always helps.
So either teach them to walk on a loose leash without the prong, and you can start with the prong and fade it out. So I actually posted a video the other day where a lot of people fail with their dogs is little management corrections. And it's really easy to do management corrections when it comes to a prong collar, because when you have a prong collar on, you don't have to think about it. The dog just corrects himself and goes, oh shit, okay. No, I'm not getting any pressure, I'm just gonna hang out right here, all right? So if you think of when you're bowling and you got the bumpers out, those are little management corrections, right? You can always bowl a strike with bumpers. But as soon as those go away, which would be the dog coming off the prong collar, there's no boundaries now. So the best way to do it is let him hit the end of that leash hard on a prong so he gets that correction, and then reward him as often as you can in the heel position, and don't do little tiny corrections buffering him in there. Otherwise, those are what's going to keep him from being able to walk off leash or walk on a loose leash. Because it'd be like me holding this dog right here like this, and he's not going to make any choices. Does that make sense? You can do it. I trained a ton of hounds.
Yeah,
They're-
he's a great dog.
they're just a pain in the
Never
ass.
sees another dog.
Yeah. And hounds don't give a shit. They're like pit bulls, man. When they start pulling. And so the other thing you're fighting too is opposition reflex. So when dogs feel back pressure, they dig into it, which is why the prong collar works so well, because it's a correction and it magnifies the pressure. So you don't have to give a whole lot of pressure and the dog doesn't fight. So, but you'll see it like huskies. Huskies are the worst. They get any kind of back pressure and they're like, yeah, man, let's go. I'll drag you all the way to town. So, but yeah, the best thing is just either be prepared with a piece of equipment that works so that you don't have to do all the nuances and the actual training of it, or take the time, go back steps, teach him how to walk nicely on a leash, and then now you're prepared regardless because he knows how to do it. And give a verbal command so he understands we're walking, not taking a skateboard ride or something. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's just that reaction to the other dogs has always been the problem.
Is he wanting to fight him or play with him?
He wants to play. He's such a, and he's got other friends to play with, but any dog or child, I don't have any kids, and he just loves them so much.
So part of what you're also fighting is the fact that you've allowed it and you haven't controlled the interactions. This is like the number one killer for people on walks. If you have a happy-go-lucky dog and everybody wants to meet your dog and you take your dog for a walk, and it could be somebody in the parking lot, that dog sees that person, oh, it's my new best friend, and the dog loses his shit, right? And they're pulling and wanting to go. Well, it's because every time that dog meets somebody, they're allowed to go get pet by that person. So now that is now the expectation. I see somebody, I get to go play. I get to go meet and greet, right? Versus, if you ever meet one of my dogs, which is very, very rare, I'm heeling my dog, and let's say that X is a person, I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna stop a good 3-4 feet from you, I'm gonna sit my dog, and we're gonna have a conversation. Because my dog is gonna watch everything you do. And then when I give the permission, that's when it's okay for my dog to get pet. And I will allow my dog to come over. But I don't let people walk over to my dog. I don't let people touch my dog. I don't let anybody reach down. Like, it has to be on my terms because I need my dog in the right state of mind because he's a protection dog, and the last thing I need is a lawsuit. And it doesn't matter if it is the same thing with happy-go-lucky dogs. Because if you have a happy-go-lucky lab that's all bouncy and, 85-year-old grandma comes over to say hi and gets scratched and her thin skin gets tore up or whatever, right? It could go either direction. So you need to control the interactions just as much as you need to control what's going on around you. And the more success that dog has of the happy-go-lucky, crazy meet and greets, that becomes the expectation, the standard. And I can't tell you how many times I get clients that come in here and they go, he walks great when there's no distractions, but as soon as there's another dog, he loses his mind. I'm like, well, how often do you let him go meet other dogs? Well, he always gets to meet his friends. Stop. Control the interaction. Once they come down to a base level, then release them to go play. Don't let them play at this level because now you're fighting this. Versus if I heel up and we have a conversation with our dogs in a heel first or in a sit, it's a lot easier to let them go. And then if we don't want to play, maybe we're just happen to be crossing at a coffee shop, we're not having our dogs flip tables over because that's the expectation that they have.
How do you control the happy-go-lucky and the excitement, like we were saying, when it's in the car, but we're driving, and then there are people walking on the sidewalk or there's a dog? What do you do to correct that?
You practice it before you do it. Drive your neighborhood, so one sits in the back seat, one person's in the front seat, or you crate the dog. Or you wait till the dog's mature enough and calm down enough that it doesn't do it anymore. Right? So whatever the dog is successful at, that's what they're going to do. So the more you do that, the more you're driving around, and I don't know who, I'm assuming you drive most of the time, being the man, and you're sitting there like, put a leash on the dog. Give the dog a correction. Stop being stupid. Lay down. Manage the dog in the back seat, right? And if you're not willing to do that, then the next safest option is putting a harness and a buckle on them so they can't do the stupid stuff.
It's mainly the whine, a lot of whining every time. It's not so much the physical, but it's just whine, constant.
So then you need to start with him practicing being calm in the back seat before you ever leave the house. Open the door, get the dog in, down, reward history, back down the driveway, down, reward history, pull back up, reward history, being calm in the back seat.
Yeah, the other dog just sits there at her window, like.
Just watch the world go by.
What are you all excited about?
Yeah. And I mean, we've had counter conditioned dogs where they throw up every time they get in a car, right? Yeah. They jump in and the car hasn't even moved yet, and it just takes time and practice, but you have to practice it before you do it for real. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself and the dog up for failure. So it's always going to take time. So again, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Is it something that really bothers you? Is it a safety thing? Like, those are things to consider. My dogs travel in crates. I have one dog that free roams, and that's the only time that he ever does it is when I'm not in my van, I'm in my truck. So, but he's also my personal dog, my protection dog. So, it's kind of worthless having a protection dog in a crate. All right, I am gonna open it up to you guys. Questions, problems, things you want to talk about dog. Did all this make sense? Does any of this help? Yes, no, F you, walking out, no?
We have one other question. The other dog does have issues with if we're walking around the neighborhood or something, and a loud motorcycle or a hot rod car comes by, those loud noises, it always has affected her since she was a puppy.
She gun shy? Have you ever done gunshots around her?
No, don't do that.
Fireworks?
I wouldn't take her to the range or anything, around anything where I go, because that would just freak her out. But at 4th of July, we have to really calm her down.
Yeah. Do you medicate her at all?
A little bit.
Yeah. For daily application, are you medicating her or just around the 4th of July?
Well, it's prior to, so it builds in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like on her other than that, like for her daily life, she's not like on trazodone or anything like that, just to build up for the 4th of July and stuff?
That's the bad one. And then there's distractions like with maybe having the radio on into a separate room, trying to create other environment, so that, but it's like, well, you don't have that when you're out. You're outside. It's open to anything,
So.
And right away, all she wants to do is go back home.
Right.
Just wants to turn around, and if we're out in the park, wants to go back to the car.
Yeah. So that's flight. So you have fight, flight, freeze, right? When you have a response to that. So freeze, the dog's like, right? And this goes for us too. This is people as well. Flight, the dog just takes off, right? So these are survival instincts for animals. And then fight is you don't take off, you're not freezing, it's forward, you're, fighting for your life at that point. So she chooses to flight, which is dangerous because it can cause just as much harm to her as it does anything else.
Oh, yeah.
So
Try to calm that down.
So the best way to do it is to desensitize the dog. So again, start small, go to parking lots, stand next to the car, and let cars drive by. So she's in a safe place. She's by the car, but she's seeing things come by and she's hearing things come by. And then try to get to where there's bigger things or whatever and just incrementally build up her tolerance to being around that. Not every dog can be counter-conditioned though. Especially if she's like a 7-year-old dog that's just terrified of the world, it might just be something that you have to deal with.
Yeah, she is an older dog, 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah. So like I start day one, I get a dog. And when I do a litter of puppies, I start with puppies. They got stereos blaring, they got air horns going off. We take them out to the farm and we shoot. So they're from puppies, they're hearing all this crap, so they're not gonna have those issues. But when you get a rescue, you don't know, right? And sometimes we just have to adapt our lives to the dog that we have because maybe the dog just has too much trauma.
Yeah, we try not to expose her too much to that stuff.
Yeah. And it might be worth trying, but again, it's up to you guys. It's your life, it's your lifestyle. It can cause more stress in the dog, but there's nothing wrong with stress as long as the dog wins, right? There has to be hope that that's gonna go away. So if you flood the dog and there's no hope the dog can get out of it, like if you took the dog to a racetrack, right? The dog would probably shit herself, right? Because it's just too much. You're flooding the dog with too much. So we start small and we build up. And then hopefully that helps with the stress. And it will probably never completely go away. Like I've had gun shy dogs that I've done with hunt dogs that we get it to a point where they can be around it, but they're still skittish. And if they ever get a lapse in training, good luck, but it's manageable, right? But it's still there. So.
Yeah, we just have to work with her.
And then just put safety precautions in place, right? Like make sure you have a leash that she can't slip and gator roll out of if she panics, right? Don't reward her for the panic. Wait till she calms down before you reward her. Because if you try to coddle her and pet her and soothe her in that moment, what is petting?
It's like a reward.
It's a reward. So you're literally telling the dog in that moment, what you are doing is right. Keep doing it.
I see.
And please, women, do not take this personally, but women do it more than men do because Mother Nature is ingrained in women and they want to soothe and coddle and take care of things because that's how they are programmed. And when they see an animal panicking like that, it just second nature. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. No different than when a baby cries. If you have a child and a baby cries as a woman, you get that gut feeling, my wife describes it to me all the time, where you just instinctively want to go help, right? Men were not programmed like that. We'll go help, but we don't get that like guttural like feeling unless there's gunfire and then we're taking off after the gunfire. Especially if you're a veteran. So, but does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's something she's had since she was a puppy, so we just have to kind of hope for the best.
Yep. So, what else? Any other questions?
I gotta go at 6 months, 6:30 or so, but the puppy in the backyard, besides putting her on the lead, is there anything else that, because he gets like selective hearing, and he will not. I mean, he wants to stay out there and play with the stick.
Half hour at a time.
So leash or e-collar. Or you have to be more interesting and entertaining to the dog and more motivated to the dog than what's distracting him.
Yes, we ease and everything, and he'll just look at you and then go off and play with the stick.
The number one thing I find out at work, like I say ride, he knows what that means, but I gotta take him for a ride that I don't wanna keep.
Correct, because then it'll burn out.
Right.
Yep. So what you should do is after he comes in, you should have a little puppy party to make it worth him coming in, whether it's a scoop of peanut butter, some chicken, something very, very high value every time he comes to you. And then we're creating that reward history that this is what happens. You're not just getting pulled in and going into a crate or whatever. Higher value. Higher value. Cheese, something, right?
Plus, we don't treat him until he gets into the living room, so he's not connecting, I guess, the treat in the living room.
I would do it as soon as he comes in the door. Yep. As soon as he comes in the door, lure him into that sit, close the door, big rewards. And make sure you close the door so he doesn't just dart back out. So, yeah.
It's usually me in the middle of the night that he wakes up.
He's old enough to hold it through the night.
Yeah, he should be.
reward history. It's because you keep doing it. What else? Anybody else have any questions? Later, buddy. We'll see you tomorrow.
I put one of them on the refrigerator, a small one, because my fiance is the problem with that. I work with him during the day, working. He's really good. When she's around him 2 days, she uses every word but that. Get over here. It's like, so I gotta instill that into her vocabulary of using what I use. You don't know, get over here and.
So let's.
Beyonce to training.
Right. So the thing is too, like, dogs aren't stupid, right? With enough repetition, they're gonna figure something out. But to be fair to the dog, the more consistent everybody be on the same page in the book, the faster the process goes, right? So I would get a dry erase board. Hey, honey, this is what this means. This is what this means. This is what this means.
I just added place. Now, place, I've been working on place.
Yeah.
Says, go to your bed. I said,
Now, that's a great thing to bring up, though, because you can use specific names. So like in our house, so for my dogs, I use climb for place. But if I say bed, we have dog beds in our bedroom. Our dogs run back to the bedroom and get on their beds. So you can use specific commands, specific words for things like that. And then you have generalized commands like place, where it's, if I point or I point at something and I tell you place, you're getting on top of that. But if I say bed, which is still a place, but it's a specific place. So just something else to think about. But yes, in general terms, place is a, this is what we're doing.
Any plans to offer your obedience series some other time on Saturday afternoons?
Yes. I'm working on the curriculum right now, working on the release, probably going to release it next week on Monday, and we'll probably start the second week of April, or early next month, I don't know. But yes. I think we're going to do Monday evenings and Thursday evenings. Because with summer coming around, the traffic on 70 is going to be horrendous with the lake. I don't want people getting stuck in that. And I've tried offering morning classes, but most people don't come to morning classes. So.
What is the obedience thing you do on Tuesday nights?
Right now, it's for competition obedience. It's our protection club. So.
My Rod cannot clip his nails. I've seen videos of people put peanut butter on their head. And I don't think I want to do that with that Rod. So how do I get him calm down to cut their nails?
Will he bite you?
Probably.
Or is he just mouthing you?
He has bit.
Yeah.
He has bit me.
We don't want that to happen. Will he let you touch his shoulders?
Yeah, I can play with his paws, but he won't let me touch the nails.
So if he'll allow you to get all the way down to his feet, try to teach a paw command or a shake command. So he's giving it to you, right? Start messing with his toenails, mess with in between the toes, down to the webbing, things like that. And then don't start with a pair of clippers. Start with a marker or a spoon or something kind of in the shape of that. And once you can start messing with his toes individually and things like that, take that object and start hitting his nails, right? And when you can go through all the nails and he doesn't care, then bring out the nail trimmer. And what I would do that whole process of working on touching him, getting all that stuff done, have the trimmers out right next to him. They're just out. He can see them, but you're not touching them, anything like that. And then after you can start doing it with something else, messing with his nails, you're gonna pick that up and you're just gonna you're gonna go all the way back to the beginning, start touching them, but you're not gonna do anything with the trimmer yet. You're just gonna have it in your hand. So you're gonna basically desensitize him to you holding it. And then you're gonna go through that whole process again. The next time, it'll go a lot faster because you've already built all the stages. And then when you get to the stage again where you're touching his nails, instead of doing something object other than the trimmer, you're gonna use the trimmer. You're just gonna hit his nails, hit his nails, hit his nails. And you might have to do 30, 40, 50 sessions of this. I don't know how old the dog is. I don't know how long this has been a problem, but go through, hit the nail, and then eventually he's not gonna care anymore. And then one day you're gonna hit the nail, snip, hit the nail, hit the nail, hit the nail, and then you're done. And then you'll do 2 nails, and then you'll do 5 nails, and then you're gonna go all 4 feet in, you know, one sitting, and he's not gonna care. So the more often you can do that, 2, 3, 4 times a day, the faster it'll go. If you're only doing it once every other day, once a week, it's gonna take forever. So, but that's how I do it. Or I start them as puppies and then they don't care because we did it from day 1. So, but even my dog now, he's 9, and I've been doing it since he was a puppy. He'll sit there, he'll put his mouth right on my hand while I'm trimming his nails. He's not hurting me, but he's like, if you get me, I'm gonna get you. So, but it's been like that way since he was a puppy. So I just, okay, it's the battle I don't wanna fight. He lets me do it. So, but yeah, that's one way. You can, if he's super food motivated, get one of those lick mats that are like suction cup, put it on the refrigerator, put some peanut butter on there. So while he's licking that peanut butter slop, you're just messing with his nails. And he's super distracted by the peanut butter or the string cheese or whatever you slather on there. So that's another way to do it. I wouldn't do it on my forehead. I'm okay with not getting bit in the face. It's happened too many times as it has. So, yep. What else? Anybody else? Huh? Sure. 10? I won't be here, but yeah. She doing better?
Yeah, she didn't breathe him like she did your dog. One ran and hid from her, and then the other one, they played until her leg got stuck in his collar. So that was fun. Her leg got stuck in Bud's collar.
Awesome.
Like, you know, with the sit and the down, so, you know, the dogs do that, you give them a treat, but then they don't stay in that, so, they've already gotten the treat. So what do you, to keep them in that position,
So
until you release them?
So the process of building duration. So we have 3 Ds in dog training. So duration, distance, and distractions. So good. So if I'm building duration, right? So I tell my dog to sit. I say good, right? Because my dog sat. And then I reward my dog and my dog pops, right? 1, I'm going to anticipate my dog popping up, because now we have a routine of what my dog does, right? So I'm gonna say sit, my dog sits, I say good, reward the dog. I know my dog's gonna pop up, leash pressure. They put their butt back down, good, reward. Dog pops up again, leash pressure. So you go back to the basics, all the way back to the beginning. So, or I'm gonna withhold the reward, ask for more duration before I mark and reward. But it sounds like once your dog gets the reward, game's over. So you haven't taught the implied stay that it doesn't matter what I'm doing, as if I told you to sit, you're holding that sit till I release you or give you a follow-on command. So just go back to pressure, dog sits, good, reward, dog pops up, sit. Same thing for the down, same thing for everything else. So, but it all goes back to your leash. Good dog. But yeah, so 3 Ds. Duration is the amount of time the dog's holding the position. We want to build it up incrementally. Distance is the distance from the dog in that position. Remember, if you add a D, you're going to lose a D, right? So if I start adding distance, I'm going to lose my duration. So I need to build them up incrementally together. And then if I add distractions, I'm going to lose my distance and my duration, right? So I would need to build them all up individually and not expect a whole lot at first. But I'm always going to work on duration first, because if I don't have any duration, I can't add distance.
Do you use separate continuation markers from terminal markers or no?
Yes, so good is my bridge to my termination, which would be free or a release command. For pet dogs, we keep it pretty simple. So good means keep doing what you're doing, the reward's coming to you. No means don't do that, try something else. Free is your release. It can be a positive marker or it can just be a release command. For my personal dogs, I have good, yes, no, and then free. So, but most people do that accidentally, not realizing they're doing it. So, and then if I'm using a clicker, double click is the release, single click is the bridge. So I don't like to do the what's the word? Click and hold. I like my dogs to be released on a clicker. It builds more energy and enthusiasm for the commands and things like that. So, but everybody's a little bit different. Yeah, and it can be heard from a distance. Have you seen the soft ones? They make like a muted clicker because there's dogs that are afraid of clickers. So, but you can also use the tone on an e-collar as a clicker too. So, Bart Belton, he does a lot of that kind of stuff. I don't like using the e-collar that way because you can't replicate it. Like you can't verbally replicate the tone of an e-collar. You can't make the beep. So, but on the e-collar, I can use tone as a recall, which would be no different than me saying come, right? As long as the dog understands the verbal recall is same as the tone. And then I also will use vibrate instead of stim in the water situation because the stim gets neutralized in the water. So if I have a water dog, your lab, I'm sure he's probably gonna love the water. If you put an e-collar on him, the stim's not gonna work in the water. So you can use the vibration as an attention getter or you can use the tone as a recall. So, and then it just makes the dog come back. So, lots of different things. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm having trouble kind of finding a balance between, like, my dogs are fearful. They're very fearful. They're doing, getting better all the time, so I'm having trouble, like I'm using like no, because there are just some things that are unacceptable, and this little guy that I got, he's gonna run the damn house if I don't apply pressure.
Yeah.
But I also don't wanna exacerbate their fear.
Correct.
That's my fear, that I will exacerbate their fear.
So, when it comes to dogs, you can't make it personal. Well, you can't make it emotional. So if you give a correction, it can't be an emotional response to what the dog is doing. Because that is how you'll exasperate the fear, right? If you just give a correction and it is what it is, and it's not too harsh, and it's not, where the dog doesn't care, right? Then it's not gonna be detrimental to the dog. So, you're also, if it's one of the new dogs, you're also within the 3-3-3 rule, right? So 3 days for the dog to kind of settle in, 3 weeks for the dog to adjust to the new environment, and then 3 months to really come out of their shell. Now with training, that can speed up the process. It can also speed up your relationship and better your guys' relationship. If you want to go even faster, hand feed the dog every meal. Make them work for their meals. Because if they're just working from a silver platter, then why do they have to listen to you? So like all of our police dogs, they're mandatory 6 months, they hand feed all their dogs. Because it speeds up the relationship, it makes you a human Pez dispenser, which brings way more value to you, and then now the dog is reliant on you for survival through food. Same thing if you have a dog that resource guards. So if they don't like you,
Better than, did I feed them all the time? They just
Well, stop being so intimidating. Stop being so intimidating. So part of it is the breed. They're Chihuahuas, right? So, and more often than not, your little dogs are yappers. And so,
If I sit in the, we've got a room edition, and I'll sit in the room edition. If I'm back there by myself, they won't come back there. If she's back there, they'll come back there. But if we're sitting in the living room together, watching TV, they'll come out and they'll roam around the floor, and they'll come over and sniff my feet, and, you know, stuff like that. And, I mean, they're starting to come around better than they did.
do you guys live together? Do you live together, or do you guys? So part of it is it's fresh.
Yeah.
And you're a guy, you have a deep voice, you're probably a little intimidating to them. So Mickey Mouse voice when you're talking to them, throw treats to them, hand feed them. Thanks, guys. And just give them time.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that when I tell them no, and I'm firm with them, that I'm not making them more fearful, because there's just some things that are just unacceptable.
So I'm highly of the agreement that a little bit of fear is healthy. My daughter, she fears me a little bit, right? Why should my dog not have a little bit of fear of me? You know? Now, I don't want my dog to run scared and walk on eggshells all day, but there should be respect. And with respect, there's a little bit of fear, right? Fear keeps you alive. It keeps you safe. I'm not one of these trainers that, I'll go on a whole tangent. I don't believe in purely positive and force-free. Like, that's all a scam and marketing bullshit, if I'm being honest. Like, there's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive motivation, negative motivation. Like, if my dog does something wrong, there needs to be a consequence. If my dog does something good, there needs to be a consequence. Because in the wild, it's gonna be the same way. If my dog runs through a thorn bush, it's gonna fucking hurt. And he's probably never gonna do it again, right? So if my dog gets into my garbage and I don't want him to ever do it again, there needs to be some kind of negative that is going to cause him to avoid it. We use it on horses, on a hot fence, or cattle, right? So why can't my dog have a negative? You just can't make it personal or emotional, right? Now, some corrections need to be personal. If I have a dog that constantly jumps on me or takes advantage of me, and we'll see this in households where you have maybe a strong leader and then not so strong of a leader as like a husband and wife or whatever the routine is, and it's like, more often than not, the husband will put the dog in his place and the wife is a little meek about it. Dog respects the husband, but looks at the wife like a play toy. Jumps all over her, bites on her, chews her up, things like that. Well, if the wife gave a personal correction like the husband did, the dog would respect her a little bit more and we wouldn't have the issue. But you have to do it non-emotionally. Because usually if we do something emotionally, we take it too far. Anything else? Did you guys get something out of tonight? Awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Cool. Well, I'm gonna go home and have dinner. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.